Big Questions with the Dead Milkmen.
So, yeah, my question, let me read it again to everybody, was, seeing as 2020 is coming to an end in a few weeks, what was the biggest or most important lesson you learned or wisdom you've gained this year? I have a couple answers, but I would say the general one is not to take anything for granted. Lots of things were challenged this year, I think. I think things like relationships, don't take those for granted. Holidays, like all of the holidays and birthdays we had this year were all. And I think it's caused me to like look at a lot of things in life and maybe see a lot of things that aren't so important. So that's that basically sums up my answer, unless you guys have questions.
No.
Unless they're about getting rid of the sunglasses, because I don't know how to do it yet.
You can try.
It kind of sidetracks the seriousness. Although I do still want to see the Pope come out instead of those. My children, I want you to love me.
It works for this year, and that's the other thing about this year. Like everything's been wacky. I feel like everything has been off. So I feel like, yeah, I think it's overall it's kind of been a good thing. Even though a lot of bad things happened. Like I just lost my job too. So.
What?
Yeah, we'll talk about that another time.
So don't take employment for granted either.
Yeah, there you go. So that's my answer.
I believe Dean is next.
Yeah. So I have a couple of comments or answers. So one is, so my suspicions and my feelings have been verified, rarefied, and confirmed that we live in a nation of selfish morons. It's kind of terrible, but that's the way it is. So I'll try and move on to some more positive comments. One is this year I discovered, I mean, I've always liked to help out and cook in the kitchen, but one of the things that became clear this year is that I like to cook and make food and serve food for other people. So I enjoy that aspect of it, which is kind of the next level kind of thing. Melissa got my wife got a new job this year, and her schedule is very erratic, let's say. And one of the things, she usually works on weekends and she doesn't get home until like 6:30. And so one of the things that I've enjoyed is meal planning and cooking and having a nice dinner ready for her when she comes home from work. It's very satisfying. So I do like to work in the kitchen. Let's see. The other thing is I've started to read more. I got out of the habit of reading over the last 10 years. And I started to read more this year because there's been more time to read. And one of the things I want to do going forward is make time for reading and get back into reading. I have a whole house full of books that I haven't read yet. And so I look forward to digging into those books in the coming months, years, decades ahead. Anyway, those are my answers.
And we know Melissa's new job is not decorating the White House because Melissa would decorate it tastefully. And
so Melissa is a frontline worker. She actually works at a pharmacy. So I'm very proud of her. She's doing a great job and working hard. And so she's, she's right there. So.
Wow. So I'm going to go next, and I got to explain this first. Everybody keeps talking like 2020 is going to end on the 1st of January, 2021. It's not. And it doesn't end on January 20th. We are in this shitstorm for years, guys. It is going to be 2020. It'll be, you can look at the calendar and it's going to say 2022 or 2023, and it's going to still feel like 2020. I want people to understand that. Let that sink in. Even though Biden won, the malicious didn't disappear. The racists didn't disappear. The conspiracy theorists did not disappear. If anything, they've got crazier, and a lot of them are trying to take low-level public office to sort of get in there. We are in for a long, bad haul. We have a vaccine for COVID. We do not have a vaccine for stupidity. And this year, it dawned on me that the reason we are stuck in the endless 2020 is because people just like me did not do enough. And I can never let that happen for me ever again. This is what I realized, I need to do more. I would march, but there were marches I didn't go to. I would call and write my legislators, but I didn't do it every day, or I didn't do it several times a week. That's a thing from now on for me. I need to raise more money than I raised for pro-democracy groups. This is my new normal. This is what it's going to be for years and years and years, and I just have to let that sink in, and it has been slowly over the last couple months. So yeah, I would love to sit here and say what I learned this year was to smell a butterfly and wave at a squirrel, and maybe I'll get to that point someday, but it's not now. And right now, I just have to be good with the idea that it's time to step up. People, folks, if you're watching this, lean in. Just hear me when I say this. The worst feeling in the world is the feeling that you could have done more. And I could have done more, and I need to start stepping up now. There's a saying that the world gets better when old men plant trees that they're never going to rest in the shade of. I'm an old man, and I got to plant that tree now. That's it. Thank you, and next.
Joe is stunned.
I've learned that the democracy is a lot more fragile than I thought it was, and it has gotten damaged. I also learned that you can file all the lawsuits you want, but they'll likely get thrown out if you don't have evidence to back up your allegations, or if you don't have allegations at all. But at the same time, I learned that there are a lot of people in our country anyway, they basically believe in the evidence that's not there. Or maybe they don't need evidence to believe the allegations that the election was stolen by the Democrats. Or they believe that there is evidence, it's just invisible evidence, and it can't be seen. But if you would look hard enough, you'll eventually see it. Why there are so many people that have this topsy-turvy belief? I've learned that there's just people have completely different mindsets because that's what they were brought up to believe, and that's what they'll probably believe. Their fake news is our real news, and our real news is their fake, vice versa. And how do you correct that? I don't know exactly, but I guess that's not wise at all. I guess I just don't know what I've learned. I've learned that things are a lot different than I thought they were this year, than I thought in 2019. And actually, at the beginning of this year, I was a lot more hopeful. We did one of these about what positive things could come out of the pandemic, and I didn't think. And actually, I thought people were really good. I still think there are a lot of good people, because even if you take all the Republicans, there are still 30% that believe that Biden won, and
They just need to say it.
What's that?
They need to say it. They're cowards. There's a lot of cowards.
Romney said it. That Toomey guy, whatever his name is.
Pat Toomey, yeah.
Pat Toomey is an asshole.
I actually wrote him a thank you letter, though, for stepping up. That was one of the things I did today. I used to march outside of his office, and I would send him a letter a week being very critical. He stepped up and he did one good thing. And I wrote him, I said, I'm still critical of you, but thank you for this. And yes, he is an asshole. I agree.
I'm amazed
an asshole who did one good thing.
Is suing Pennsylvania, and everything in their lawsuit is incorrect.
Joe, you're dealing with a party, a group of people, 75% of Republicans at this point believe there's at least some truth to the QAnon theories. They spent a lot of great time creating this sort of false reality. And the people who originally created the false reality in the 80s, the top people up there didn't believe it. But as time went on, the followers began to believe it, and other, well, basically, there's a great thing on PBS, if you haven't seen, called Hacking Your Brain. And they talked about how Russians went on Facebook and created two separate groups at one point. One was an anti-Islamic group, the other was a pro-Islamic group, and they actually had them have counter-protest at one point. So you can see how people are easily manipulated. The trick is, if you try to debunk something that somebody like that believes, it's not going to work. Just giving them those facts, you have to give them sort of a more realistic alternate reality. They found that when people believed that Barack Obama was born in Nigeria or whatever, they would say, no, he wasn't. But what they would do is they would say, no, instead of going that way, they'd say, well, no, or they would say, no, they'd say, Barack Obama was born in Hawaii. And that suddenly made sense to people. Yeah, that makes more sense than him being born. So there is a way to combat disinformation. And that's, if you want to do something, I was talking about doing something, find groups that combat disinformation. Either give them some money or give them some time. But don't sit in your fucking ass, people.
Unless you're driving people places,
Yeah.
Well, I was going to recommend, I like what Rodney said about helping people, but I definitely recommend everybody make sure you take care of yourself too, especially keeping, your mental health in check, especially around the holidays, But yeah, take care of yourself. Brush your teeth.
I have a couple of recommendations this week. One is a documentary film, which is available for free on YouTube. It is called Billions of Windows. And it is about the British artist named Stephen Wiltshire. Yeah, Wiltshire. Stephen is an autistic gentleman. He's in his 40s, I think. He's been painting for a long time and been quite famous for a long time. Stephen has an amazing photographic memory. And so he likes to draw cityscapes, and he goes up in a helicopter. People have taken him up in a helicopter and flown around city like London and all over the world for about half an hour. And he comes back and he will sit and spend 5 days, and he will draw an accurate cityscape drawing panorama of the city based on that 20-minute helicopter ride. It's absolutely astounding. He just has a really incredible talent. It's a very interesting film, and I highly recommend it. You can find it on YouTube. We'll post the link below. It was brought to my attention because somebody I follow on YouTube, a synthesist, composer, guy named Hainbach, did the soundtrack for this movie, and the soundtrack is just perfect for this movie. Last Bandcamp Friday, I actually bought the soundtrack album, and it's actually a really great synergy of art and music. So I highly recommend both. We'll provide a link to Hainbach's YouTube channel. And let's see, the other thing I was going to recommend. Gosh, I've forgotten. I think that's it. That's good enough.
This is why you never want to be naked in front of a window, no matter how high up you are in a building, because for all you know, there's some dude come by in a helicopter drawing your Yankee Doodle, and it's stuck in his head for like 5 days.
Right.
Yeah, I'm about to really, really switch gears. Also, when you said the documentary Billions of Windows, I thought you were about to say about the artist Billions of Windows. I'm switching gears a whole lot here from angry, serious Rodney. So just take a second here. But want to give an RIP out to David Lander, who folks probably knew better as Squiggy, half of Lenny and Squiggy. A lot of people knew him from Laverne and Shirley. Not so much me. We, as a band, tend to know him from the Lenny and the Squigtones album. and it is a comic masterpiece. It is available on YouTube. It was filmed at the it was recorded at the Roxy, and we were once playing at the Roxy. We were getting ready to do sound check, and I uttered a line from it. There's kind of a parody of spoken word in it called "How Many Miles to Babyland?" And I said, "How many miles to Babyland?" And the sound guy went, "Wait, how do you know that?" And it turned out he was the sound guy on the Lenny and the Squigtones tour, and that was actually the inspiration for Spinal Tap. And Squiggy was also the inventor of the Squigophone. So I have a weird electronic device that I often call the Squigophone in honor of it. So yeah, R.I.P. David Lander, very, very funny man. And the Lenny and the Squigtones album is a perfect bit of comedy. Also, speaking of comedy, see, nice segue. I stopped by, I was a guest on the Illuminati Social Club. So the episode is up there now, earlier in the week. And what we did was we took the 1980 Satanic Panic, I'm using documentary in quotes, revival of evil, and we shit all over it. We basically played it in chunks and just made fun of it and just took everything everybody was saying and mocked the hell out of it. And there were points from like, if you were drinking something, it came out your nose as we were all doing it and busting each other up. It was one of the first Satanic Panic documentaries. So if you're listening, if you have two monitors, if you're listening to the podcast, it helps over here to have Revival of Evil, which you can find on YouTube. It is a must-see, and we spared no one, and I feel really good about that. So those are my two recommendations, Lenny and the Squigtones, and this week's episode of Illuminati Social Club.
I'd like to recommend an app that you can get for your smartphone. It's a COVID tracking app. Actually, every state, I don't know if every state has one, but they're different for every state. So Pennsylvania has one. And there are websites that list them, so you can figure out, you can probably just do a search and find the one that's for you. Like the Pennsylvania one is called COVID Alert PA. And it asks you to, oh, you have it.
I have it.
It asks you every day how you're feeling, but I guess the benefit of it, if enough people get it, it can tell you if you've been near someone who's tested positive, I guess. It helps. It's just a general help for public health overall. So yeah, and then I'd also like to recommend DuckDuckGo, which is a search engine, and you can use it instead of Google. And what is good about it is it doesn't track you. It doesn't use any of your private information like Google does. Your information isn't being sold to advertisers or being used to serve up ads for you, but also it's not being used to serve up specialized search results for you.
Cool.
I have the South Philly version of the COVID Alert, which is basically a guy called Crazy Frankie, and he stands outside of the house and goes, "Hey, you guys in there got COVID yet?" And then you let him know, all right. And then, comes by every couple hours. It's awesome.
He lost his glasses. What happened?
Yeah, I figured out how to.
Oh, you figured it out? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. Everybody tune in next week for special guests.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, special guest next week. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but let's just say nerd alert. So you're going to enjoy this, all you nerds.
All right. Everybody have a good week.
Have a good week. Stay safe.
Love
Stay
you guys.
healthy.
Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah. Yes.